Hello and welcome. This is the Daily Reset for Success show, and my smile probably tells it all. We're so happy to be here today to present to you a very special dear friend, Red O'Loughlin. So let me say hi, Lady Lou, the baby boomer babe. Hi,
Hi.
Red. Hi, Red. How you doing?
Exceptionally well, as always.
As always, you always are so good. Well, I just want everyone to know that we are live every single, well, I almost said every single day, but that's not true anymore, is it? We're here a lot, and we're live on YouTube and on Facebook. Then we take the audio out and we shove it up to the internet and we go podcast crazy, and we let you take us with you when you're driving or walking your dog, whatever it is that you want to do out there. You can do it with a podcast and some earbuds. We love that because, we're free. We're free to do what we want. And Daily Reset for Success helps you set up for a free and happy lifestyle. And today we are honored to be bringing to you something that we have a passion for, which is getting our message out from inside us out to the public. And Red O'Loughlin, among other things, is a published author and a producer. And he's not only an author, but he's a best-selling author, and he knows how to do it, and he likes to share it. So I'm just going to turn it over to Lady Lou. I know she's itching to ask the first question of Red. So go for it, Lady Lou.
Oh, thank you, Marian, and thank you, Red, for being here. And you mentioned that he was a producer, and I know you meant to say publisher.
Publisher, yes. Publisher, producer.
Publisher. That's why we're talking with him today, because he's got such a wealth of knowledge on how to get your book out there fast. So, Red, what would be, just give us a short background. We know you're a best-selling author, and you do all kinds of books. Give us a real brief overview of you, and then I'll ask you the first question. Fair enough?
Fair enough. Brief overview. That's like 25,000 words or more.
Yeah, or less.
Yeah.
Okay. I've written and published 5 books of my own. I've published over, I think, 14 or 15 clients of mine, several of their books, multiple books, or they've taken books out of the publisher they already had, and they want better control over their books, and so they took it away from the publisher. But basically, I've been writing all my life. I've written probably over 1,000 articles, documents. I know I've written 1,000 blogs. I've been blogging every day since the first day of this year. But I write a lot, I speak a lot, and I publish as much as I can. And the other things you probably need to know about me, let's see here real quick. Oldest of 9 kids, traveled to 61 countries in the world, retired naval officer, 31 years. Next month, I'll be married 52 years. Oh. And I just love Marian.
I do too. Oh, thank you, Red. Yeah, you are having a wonderful life and a wonderful career, and we can all take lessons from you because you just keep on keeping on, and that's what life's about, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Great.
When I was creating the thumbnail for today's show, I found this really cool graphic, and I'm going to show it to you now. It fits you perfectly. Life is too short, okay? It's just too short to wait for anything that you want to do. And what I just love it. I tell you, I just love the fact that you take life every single day and make it a gift. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Red.
That's great. And everybody around you feels your energy and your love and your compassion and your beautiful energy. And we thank you for that. So
my energy really gets overflowing when I start talking about health and wellness, because that's really where my passion is at in my research and in what I do. But I also have passion in other parts of my life too. And so today we're going to go delve into that part about a book that nobody knows about, or they want to know more about it, but they're just not sure. And I'll wait for Lady Lou to just open the door for that one.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you this about me. I have at least 2 books living inside my computer. What good are they going to do there? Somebody said, well, let's give them birth. So today, maybe I'll learn how to give those books birth. But we're going to talk about how to write a book fast. So, Red, tell us, just give us a little way to know if we even have a book in us. Of course, I think everybody does. But then what would be the first step after we figure that out?
Well, before we even get to that part, if you even have the thought that you want to, and about 80% of people really and truly want to have a book written, that's at least what the statistics tell us, whether it's about their family, about their job, about their dog, about whatever may happen to be. We all have passions in different parts of our lives. And we think of a book as a big, thick 300, 400 page book, but that's not necessarily the case.
Right.
But you have to answer the question, why am I writing the book? Now, I have a good friend of mine, Brian Bearden. You know him, Marian?
Yes.
Well, Brian has a 60-page booklet. I call it a booklet because it doesn't have a spine on the back of it. And he's maybe sold $1,500, maybe $2,000 worth of books on Amazon. And he's been a #1 bestseller for that book 3 years in a row. He wrote the book almost 4 years ago, in fact, 4 years ago now.
Wow.
But he's made over $750,000 using that book as a business card.
Yeah, that's the tips book, right?
That's the tips book. Yeah. So if you're looking at something, maybe what you have is not necessarily a novel or a how-to book, but maybe it's just a tip book. And those are fairly easy to do. Or maybe you've had a long life, and I'll be 74 here later this year. And maybe you just want to write a legacy about your life. What have you done? Or what, if you're in the military for a period of time, what did you do in the war, Daddy? Or lately here, what did you do in the war? What did you do in the COVID war, Daddy? I mean, there's a lot of things out there. But, if you want a book and you want to use it in your business and you want to be a bestseller, well, you need to know that starting out, because you want to start out writing at the same time you start your marketing plan. And those two things should be parallel paths going right on down the road. Now, do you have to? No. But if you write the book and it's all done and you have no marketing background established, then you're just delaying everything. But then you also need to look at the category. So do a competitor analysis. Who has a book out there in the same category that you do? And the good thing is you do not need to have your own title. Book titles cannot be copyrighted. You can use any book title you want. So if there's a best, Think and Grow Rich or whatever you want, there's a lot of things that you can use. So look in the categories, because that, when you finally get your book ready to go, you want to make sure that you've researched a little bit about the categories. So go down to Barnes & Noble or get on Google and go to Amazon and look and see who are the top 10 authors in that field. What do their book covers look like? If you're at Barnes & Noble, take pictures of the front and back. How many pages? What do the table of contents look like? What genres are there? That way you have a really good idea of your competition. If you're just going to use it as a local business because you do cake decorating or something like that, then you need to know who are the cake decorators within 20 miles of you. What is on their websites? Do they have any books? What can you do to exploit the fact that you are offering value that they are not? And that's the key. What value are you offering that your competition is not offering? And when you look at the number of pages, we obviously have a choice between a physical book and an electronic book. Now, physical books, when you go to Barnes & Noble, they will not print a book under 40 pages. And so when you start looking at a 25-page tip book, for instance, it's going to be electronic. Now, obviously, you can send it to a press and they'll print it for you. But for all practical purposes, the book you have does not have to be over 100 pages. It does not have to be over 50 pages. But the book you have is going to be your story and the way you tell it. The other things you want to look at on the your competitor analysis is, what size is their book? Is it 6x9, 5.5 by 8.5? Whatever it is, you want to make sure you're kind of in that same area. You don't want an 8.5 by 11 book when everybody else is 6x9, unless you have some really, really good stuff. You also want to look at the prices. That way you know where you're going to put your price point at. But those things are there. But let's talk about the basic question: how do you write your book really, really quickly? So let me suggest a question. And I'm going to ask each of you the same question, but you don't need to answer it. All you just need to do is shake your head yes or no, okay? If I were to say, Marian, tell me about the first car you ever had. You could do that. Okay. Louise, could you tell me?
Oh, yeah, I can see it in my mind's eye.
So if you happen to have a question that's asked to you that you know the answer, it's so simple to be able to tell somebody that answer. So as an interview, we don't edit interviews for all practical purposes. There's very little editing. So if I happen to have a 1956 Buick Riviera as my very first car, then I could tell you all about it. I could tell you the blue and white. I could tell you the seat covers. I could tell you everything. So if you structure your book in the same way that you would structure an interview, so you spend yourself a little bit of time, and this may be a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is, but think of, and I use 40 questions that you want your book to talk about, because you're going to pick the best 20. And 20 from a statistical perspective is a very inclusive amount of, it's really the meat of everything that you have. So let's say that you're talking about a particular business or something, you're a motivational speaker, whatever it is, or your legacy. Okay, let's start with the teenage years, when you first got a car, whatever it may be, or you talk about your grandparents. You can segment this thing any way you want. But if you have the questions, and with each question, you put a bullet. Okay, so I have a 1956, I have a 1962, I have 65, I have all these things. And maybe in my 1962, we took that car to Hawaii with us on active duty when I was in the military. Whatever it is, you have these little stories. And the stories are super important, because those are the things that capture people. Those little vignettes of your life, those little testimonials that you can give other people. So you have a bullet, 1956 Buick, whatever. And then driving down the Crosstown Expressway in Corpus Christi, my hood came up and went all over my windshield, and I couldn't see a thing except I had to stick my head out the window to pull over to the side. And that happened. Or the time I was in my 59 Chevrolet station wagon and my left rear wheel came off and passed me going down the big bridge in Corpus Christi. And I drove down on 3 wheels and a brake drum, picked up my tire. I mean, these are true stories, but the little stories sell. So what stories do you have? Because you can write the book, you can sit down there and just type away, and that's the hardest way to do it, because it takes forever to get everything coordinated. You may take 3 months and write a book, it take you 13 months to edit it. It takes a long time. So if you can eliminate the editing process, now people say, well, I can just speak it because I'm a public speaker. It's not the same dynamic. If I'm standing up in the front of a room and I'm speaking to everybody and I'm recording it, yeah, there's a certain flow because I've said the same thing, but it's not connecting eyeball to another person. And that's what you want in your book. That person that you're writing that book for, your audience, you ought to be able to communicate directly to them. And when you ask a single question, you have 4 bullets and 2 little stories embedded in those bullets, then it makes it very, very easy. You spend 5 minutes answering that question, and voila, you have that chapter done. You go to the next question, and you maybe have 6 bullets there. But you have the bullets in the order that you want to talk about it so you don't forget anything. And you have your little stories highlighted in there as to what you want to bring up. First date with so-and-so, fell in love, whatever it may happen to be, or first time at this restaurant. There are so many things in there that you can have. So it depends on what your book is about. Your first client, if you had your own business, the first time you went bankrupt, the first time you overcame bankruptcy and you made your fortune back. I mean, there's just a little thing. Or you say, I've had 10 of the worst luck you've ever had. These are the 10 things I learned from the biggest failures of my life. So you say, well, there's my business. I had this thing and it went south, but I learned that if I don't do this, I will. And so there's a lot of things. It doesn't have to be all positive, but take something that happened to you and make it a really, really interesting story so that, there's so many things we do in the military. I've been to exercises all over the world. And with every exercise, they have a lessons learned. It's a big book. And it says, this is what we did, and this didn't work. And it's available to everybody who wants to go look at it. They go back 10 years and look at that same exercise. It may not be identical, but if you can't talk from a Navy aircraft to a Coast Guard boat, what good is it having 2 different assets out there in the same part of the world that can't talk to each other? And that happens a lot. And so you want to be able to look at what have you learned in life, because those are value positions. Those are things that happen to you that can happen to anybody, but it's how you overcame that momentary decline and came back up again. And it may be even a health issue. Maybe you came down with something, and because of something you read, you did this, and voila, you're healthy as a horse again. But you need the stories, because that's the capture. That's the hook. That's the thing that keeps people coming back to you. And when you have those little stories and you're asked to speak in front of some event because of your book, those things just roll right off your tongue because they're just so natural. So as you're capturing the questions, and I say 40 because you really want to expand beyond. And what you might find out is you might have 2 books, you might have 3 books. You don't know. It may be that these 13 questions really are the meat of what I want to talk about, not 20. But because you've thought about it and you honed it down, now you may have, like me, I may have a book about my personal life. I may have a book about my military life. I may have a book about my business life. I may have 3 total different kinds of books. Doesn't mean they can't interweave, but take a look at what you have and then realistically assess, do I need a 400-page book? I don't necessarily think so. What is the purpose of your book? Is it to help your business? Maybe 400 pages isn't there. Maybe 40 is more ideal. So those are the kind of things you have to balance out. But in the actual writing, if we're doing an interview and I have the same list of questions that you have, and we go down the questions and we're looking each other in the eye and we're talking, nobody else can see us. We're in a room, just the 2 of us. And it's different than if I have 5 people over there, because you're trying to make sure you're inclusive. We're just doing eyeball to eyeball. That's what you want, because that is the essence of your book. Now, what happens, you're finished. I have it all recorded here on my cell phone. I take that MP3 file that I have, and I can do a lot of things with it. And that's where you go to Marian, because she will help you out as to who you take and send that audio file to. Now, there are a lot of applications that will do voice to text. And you can use those. One of the biggest problems is they don't put in the periods and the capitalization at the beginning of the sentences. But the book is written. You can send it out to a service that will turn it around for you, a nominal charge, sometimes as little as 10 cents a page to $1 a page, and they generally turn it around pretty quickly. And you get it back the next day. Boom, you have 100-page document sitting there in front of you. Now, if you're looking at a document, let's say you have 50 pages. It's 8.5 by 11, and it's all single spaced. That's roughly a 200-page book, 6 by 9.
Wow.
So take a look at the size of the book. If you happen to have a piece of paper and you fold it over, this is 8.5 by 11, for instance, and you fold it over, it becomes a 6 by 9.
Can you repeat
And so it's
that?
certainly. If you print this thing out, you get it back from whoever, or you print it on your own computer, and you have, let's say, 50 pages.
Right.
And it's typewritten on, you printed it out on your printer. You have 50 pages, they're all single spaced. If you were to just double that number of pages from 50 to 100, that's how big your book would be as a 6 by 9 sized book.
Oh,
Got
and
it.
most books are small. One of our friends wrote this one. That's 8.5 by 11, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And there are certain
big
books
book.
that work well for an 8.5 by 11, especially workbooks.
Yeah, and
because you want
it
that.
is a workbook.
But there are other books that are not necessarily the same. Brian's book, I think, is like 4. It's about the size of a CD cover, about 4.5 by 4.5. It's a very small book. Fits in his pocket very easily. That was what he wanted. He wanted a book that could fit in your pocket.
Yeah.
And so he has a business card he's wearing. He sticks his pocket, pulls them out, he gives them to people. It's a business card. And like I say,
love
he's
it.
made nearly $1 million over the last 4 years, doing nothing but using that as an intro, because of the value he adds to a customer, and the experience that he brings because of the business that he's in.
That's it. And you don't really have to be in business to write a book. You could just be an ordinary individual or a retired person who just.
If you're
Go ahead.
If you're retired and you're sitting, in your retirement home, wherever that may be, Galveston or who knows where, on the beach, on a mountain. If you have this thing, you could do this thing by Zoom, because I'm looking you in the eye and recording it. It's quite possible you don't need somebody else there. But I usually tell people, get with somebody that you trust, a spouse, a best friend, or an accountability partner, somebody that you don't know. But regardless, you need a person on the other side that you're looking at, whether it's Zoom or in person, because that dynamic makes a difference. It has this little genuineness to it that you're not quite getting. Some people can fake it when they're speaking to a crowd.
Yeah.
And they go up and down. But when you're connecting with another person and you see their eyes and their face and they light up and you're following and you're shaking your head, yes, those are the things that that what's coming out of your mouth does not need to be edited. And so if you can produce a book literally in a weekend, because you have your 20 questions, you have your bullets, you have your little stories, and you say, I'm going to speak for an hour now, we can take a break, come back, we speak for another hour, Go right ahead, Marian.
I want to know how you come up with those questions.
That is a very individual thing. Let's just go ahead and take a look at Marian LaSalle for a minute. Okay, if you happen to have a book, let's talk about. Let's take a business that you're involved in. Let's go back to the time that I met you and Russ were very active in providing training. And so if you wanted to talk about, let's say, the ability to market and brand yourself, and that ability you want to use social media. So that becomes maximizing social media to enhance your brand or something, whatever it is. You go out and you do your research and find out how many books are written on it, what's in their table of contents, what are they charging? But then you go back to your own experience. Well, what happened at the beginning of social media that is still here, that's successful? What happened at social media that failed, but there were good lessons learned from those failures that you can bring forward? What has happened in video? I mean, you just go back 10 years in video, we didn't have this to the same extent that we have it now, that you have video editing software and everything on there. And so you can have a little dialogue about how things went. And then you take, well, let me tell you about this customer I had. And then you bring in Sam, George, whoever, and you say how the problem they had and how you solved it. And how, if you are working with them today, this is what you would add to that. And so these little questions are really about what value do you want to add to somebody's life? Because that's what they're buying. They're buying value, not the content. The content is the value that's tweaked and twisted in such a way that it just gets absorbed into the reader. And that's what you need. So if you can come in, the questions, that's why I say it may take 2 weeks, it may take 2 months. But if you give that thought and it's something you write down every time, or you record it on your phone every time you think of a question, then you have these 10, 12, 15 questions. You can go in there. Here are the bullets that I want to have. And then you go back and you move them around, because this is the natural order to talk about those things. Yeah. But the questions are something that's individual. Yes, Louise.
Can you also interject humor into that?
Why would you not?
Well, that's what I was getting at. You don't have to have it cut and dried and all businessy if you're a business person. And it's just, black and white. Everything happened in my business. Throw in something like somebody threw a white baseball through my front window on my store, and oh, you should have seen the mess. Put something in there. The story, it goes back to the story.
But it's your story, and your interpretation of the humor is part of that. Yes. Everybody else may thought it wasn't funny as it can be, and you're sitting there drenched in water because it's not funny to you, but it's funny to everyone else. Exactly. Or it's something that you saw. It's like I was in Germany for a couple of years, and the first time I went to a karaoke, in the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps. Was it?
Yeah, the mighty.
No, I'm trying to think of it. In the village, the peaceful village. Oh. I started laughing out loud because I'd never heard "in the village," the peaceful village. But that's the way in their karaoke they say "village" is village.
Right.
And to me, it was funny as could be. Nobody else in there was laughing.
Right.
So but yeah, the humor you have to have in there. It's just, the stories are stories because they capture the heart, the soul, or the event. Where were you on 9/11? Where were you on whatever it may happen to be? Yeah. Those stories may or may not necessarily fit in this book. They may fit in the next one, because it might be something right now. This is your business, but maybe your life is so full of stuff that, I really need to share this with my great grandkids. They may never be grown up enough for me to really share it. So you have the ability to do this. And if you're doing a video recording and you pull off the audio, then they have the videos that they can go back and watch anytime they want to. So there's so much technology out there that we can take advantage of. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does. And people remember stories, and they remember the humor, because if you're going to get them to laugh about something, it's set. They're going to remember that laugh forever.
It's like I tell Marian all the time. You're a little tense. Marian, take a deep breath. Hold it for 30 minutes.
He gets me every time, too. I'm like, hold my breath for 30 minutes.
And you're never going to forget that one now, are you, out there in the audience?
So, yeah, the questions are the hardest part, but that's the hardest part of your book. And you're thinking about it. You're not writing. You're not spending any time editing. You're not spending any time proofing. you're spending time on what value do I want to give my audience? And that value comes as what question do you pick? And if you look at other people's books and the table of contents they have in it, that may be a natural for being able to figure out the questions you want for that cake decorating business, that dog grooming business, that speaking business. I mean, every speaker should have a book. Doesn't necessarily mean it's on whatever you're speaking about. I may be a dog groomer, but I can be introduced in my speech. And here's a published author, Red O'Laughlin. I don't have to mention the name of my book, but just the mere fact that you have a book gives you credibility. And in whatever business you're in, if you're giving a book out on cake decorating, for instance, and here are my top 20 clients, and here, that's credibility. Because as a business, we want credibility. As an entrepreneur, we want credibility. And that's what comes from you, from the inner soul, the inner brain of what you're putting into that book.
Yeah. I heard a long time ago that anything over 75 pages is considered a book. And I heard you say if it doesn't have a spine, it's not a book.
It takes 104 pages to have a spine.
Good thought. Okay.
So if you have 80 pages, and I've had several authors, at least 3 or 4 that I can think of off the top of my head, that ended up with 85 pages or 90 pages. And we sat down and said, can we add some extra pictures? Can we change the size of the font? Can I shrink the margins a little bit? Do you have an extra chapter you can figure out? And we managed to get it up to 110 pages. Okay. So there's a lot of things we can do if you're almost there. Now, if I have 40 pages and I need to get it to 104, it probably won't happen unless every other page is blank. So it depends on
published as a booklet.
Yeah, so you have a booklet, which and I may still have a spine of sorts because it depends on how you want to work that out with your press, the publishing people. I take your finished product. I don't do any editing. I do no proofing. I take the finished product and I give you an ebook and a physical book on Amazon. And I show you how to change prices. I show you everything you need to do, and I walk away. I'll give you 2 free content changes, no questions asked. I'll give you 1 free cover change, no questions asked. And that's what I do. I just get your book published and turn it over to you. A lot of publishers keep everything, and then you want to change something for sale for next Monday. It's hard to do. But what I do is I am just a bare bones publisher. I take what you have. I do not manipulate it other than size it to the right size that you want, and then produce the document. Thank you very much. End of story. Move on to the next person. Next.
And how do people reach you? What's the best way for them if they have questions or they want to sign up?
I have it right down here, Louise.
Oh, it's all down here. Well, say it out loud for our podcast audience then.
Okay. The easiest way to reach me is my phone number, 281-687-1188. Again, 281-687-1188. Now, you can text me and I'll call you back. You can leave me a message if I don't answer, or you catch me and we make an agreement to talk at a certain period of time. I have a website, redolaughlin.com. That's R-E-D, like the color red, R-E-D, O'Laughlin, spelled O-L-A-U-G-H-L-I-N, O-L-A-U-G-H-L-I-N. So Red O'Laughlin, no dots or anything in there, redolaughlin.com. And you can reach me at red@redolaughlin.com. So that's another way of reaching me.
Great.
So
well, that's important.
In the description below the YouTube and the Facebook and all the podcasts is a description with all the links that we talked about today. I have a couple more questions, Red, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So I would really like to do a tips book like you were talking about earlier. And so would it be the best opportunity for me to present myself with a tips book, or should I write like a novel first? Or, I mean, is there a way to get started?
Let's assume you have 2 different books in your brain right this minute. I think Louise said she has 2 in her computer that she can't find. You want the one that you have the most passion about because that's the one you're going to follow through on. If you don't have the passion to write the novel, even though you want to, but you have a lot of passion because that tips book can actually, hey, I can get some money out of that tips book. Write the one that's going to benefit your business. Write the one that you're going to add the immediate value to somebody else in their business or their life. and add the one that you are the most passionate about, because now all of a sudden you have a message that you need to share, you want to share, and that passion is going to make it happen. If it's a novel, you don't write novels by asking questions. Okay, who just came in the room? It's just, that doesn't work well. It only works on certain kinds of genres.
Okay.
So the genre that we're looking at here is primarily for retirees who want to leave a legacy or a memoir, for a business owner who wants to do a book about their business, for a consultant, for a public speaker. Those kind of things are the ideal book for being interviewed, because those are the ones that lead easily from one question to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And you go bullet, 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 story, bullet, bullet, story. And that's the way it goes. So if your tip book is only 12 tips, it's 12 chapters. You have an intro and about the author. Now you got 14 chapters. Now you may have a little blurb at the end of the book about my next book is such and such. Now you got 15 chapters. So before you know it, you have 100 pages.
And a book.
All right. Well, the tips book comes first for me. Now we have a couple questions in the audience. Ricky McKenna says, would you recommend using blanks for the reader to comment in the book?
Blanks like in bullets?
I think what she means is like a workbook.
Oh, blank pages.
Pages.
Oh, blank. Okay, I got you now. I wasn't quite sure on the blanks. White space is ideal on certain kinds of books, especially if it's a thought-provoking book, a devotional, a book that you want to be able to capture some part of the essence of whatever this, maybe it's a motivational kind of book or self-improvement. Yes, absolutely. Now, the problem you have with white space is that not all white space is created equal, because you can't make the book end with 2 sentences at the top of this page and white space at the bottom. The next page is going to be 6 sentences at the top. At what point in time do you say, okay, I'm down to 20 sentences and I have this much white space at the bottom. Now I have a whole white page on the other side. So there has to be some consistency. So if you're going to have, now convention in writing says that on the right-hand side, my chapters always start. Now you'll notice that some books it's not always true, especially novels, because they don't want the white pages.
That makes sense.
Yeah, the right-hand side is where chapters start. So if the left-hand side doesn't have anything, because I ended my book on the right page, I turn my book over, my left page is blank.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I ended on my left page and my right page is blank, now all of a sudden, if I'm going to keep the convention, I turn the page and I have 2 white pages back to back. So it depends on how the book is actually put together and constructed as to what makes the best sense to do that. And there are a lot of tricks we can do with changing font size or the distance between the lines, the size of the margins. There are things you can do to make things a little bit better. But yes, on the particular genre of book that you're talking about, white spaces make all the sense in the world and probably would add value to your book, because it becomes a personal book that somebody keeps their own notes in.
Okay, good. We have Mary Shin, who says, does your website give some guidelines before contacting you?
All my website does is I provide awareness and education to people for health and wellness. I think I have a passion for writing. Marian, you've seen me talk about health and wellness. I mean, it's a subject that I research what goes on in the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships.
Yes.
If I am treating a cause, I can fix a problem. If I treat a symptom, it's a Band-Aid. It doesn't fix anything. So when I get involved with health and wellness, that's what I do. Almost every blog I've written this year, and I've written every single day this year.
It's a passion project for you to help other people who have a message inside them to get it out. It's not your main thing. And that's one of the things I love about you, is you want to help people get to where you are because they have a good message they need to share. That's awesome.
That's absolutely, you hit it right on the head, Marian, because I help people with their own life, but I also help people with their life maybe to get that story out. And I will share everything I know to make that happen.
Right. We have another question, and I'll be right back. Go ahead.
Oh, you want to read it, Red?
My ebook has recipes and blank space after each recipe where I suggest the reader write their own interpretations. And blank space they can use for their notes on a recipe. That is a good idea. An ebook, how do you write on your ebook? I guess is the first question I have. I guess you print out the ebook so you have something there in the kitchen, or is there a way on your ebook to actually write on that ebook? I've never written in an ebook, so I don't know. You're in an area where I have a disadvantage because I'm not a big ebook person. I produce ebooks, but I don't necessarily read them per se. I prefer paper. That's something that Marian doesn't like, is paper to hold and read. She likes to see and hear. So I don't know, Ricky. I really don't know how. If there's a way to do it electronically, more power to you. And I say go for it, because that does make sense on a recipe, that if you want to add twice as much of this or add in something else to keep that one your unique recipe that has your flavor profile, then I say absolutely, because it makes sense. And that's the real key. Does it make sense?
Yeah, there you go. And a lot of women in particular love to have their recipe in their hand. When I do that, if I'm cooking and I want to be able to look at it, I don't want to have to run back or forth to my computer or my telephone or whatever. So I would think a lot of people would publish or print out a recipe book.
Yeah, it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm in the kitchen, I just need something, but then I got to go over there and I keep having to renew because it blacks out on me.
Yeah.
If I'm upstairs and I find something I really like, I'll print it out. And our 52nd wedding anniversary is coming up here very shortly. And I decided that for 3 days, the day before, the day of, and the day after, we're going to have recipes we've never had before in our lives. I'm going to do some research, and I'm going to have main course meals and dessert, and it's all going to be either French or Italian, German, whatever. But I'm going to have stuff that we typically do not fix for ourselves. We typically do not even get in a restaurant. But it's something I want to experiment with, because during COVID, I've experimented with a lot of things I've never done before. Why not do it for something that's really and truly a special event? So that way I'll have 3 complete separate meals from front to back that will be something unique. And, for a 52nd wedding anniversary, why not make it special?
Oh, it would. You're so romantic. We don't know very many romantic men. Congratulations.
I went to NES Dallas, Texas to take a physical fitness, physical test for the Navy.
Looks like you got a client.
And,
look at that.
and I passed, he didn't. I went to Vietnam, he didn't. But I said I do to the Navy on a Sunday afternoon. I said I do to my wife the following Wednesday night. And the following Wednesday night happened to be July 3rd. For years, decades, we asked people, do you know anybody ever got married on a Wednesday? No one. During my in-laws' 50th wedding anniversary, somebody had saved a newspaper clipping. They were married on a Wednesday at 5:30 in the morning.
Oh, God.
Oh,
but
bold.
We never asked them. But everybody else we knew was, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, whatever. But nobody ever got married on a Wednesday. We got married on a Wednesday because it was the day before the 4th of July, and I got an extra day off from work.
Yay. Well, the 5:30 marriage, they must have been military, because military.
No, they were living in Corpus, and they had to go to Houston, and the bus or something. I'm not sure what it was back then, but it was a long time ago.
Oh, that's fun. Oh, what did Ricky say about that other one?
She plans on hiring Red to help her publish her book, and I think that's wonderful. And she says, a beautiful idea for your anniversary. May it be happy and healthy for many more years. And everyone is just saying in the little chat room over here, they're just so thrilled that you were here today to help us get started writing our book. Now, Lady Lou and I are both in the process of writing a book, and I think we're going to turn it into a tips book instead of the way we had it, in our mind. We're talking about our experiences with this show. Daily Reset for Success was born because, let's face it, we all have bad days and we might need to reset, right? So everybody that's been on the show has a different personality and different things that they're doing in the world. And it's just been fascinating. And we want to capture that. So I'm thinking maybe not a tips book as it says tips, but in that the way you described it, Okay,
well, let me suggest this, since the two of you are collaborating on it, because of the uniqueness of both your personalities and the experience you bring, even though it's a common show. Chapter 1, whether it's chapter 1 or 2, one chapter is Marian's, one chapter is Louise's. That way you have the ability to get your own thoughts in, and you're not compromising with anything. That this is yours and you're accountable. Today I'm doing chapter 1, you're doing chapter 2. Let's get this thing done. Let's get it outlined. Let's get this thing taken care of. And you can talk to her as being the interviewee and you're the interviewer. And the thing makes it very, very nice because you have in your mind, Louise, you should have said this also. And you just interject that, because when you get the finished product back, you can take those little, Louise, you should have just extract those out of the print. And so that what makes that very, very nice about having two people who know what needs to go in there, but have two different perspectives on what it means. And so if you do that and you say, okay, today we're getting chapter 1 and 2 done, no matter what. And it happens, because that's the way things happen when you're accountable to other people. And you do this one a day. And plus the fact that you start your marketing campaign right now with this particular video and podcast, because now you're announcing to the world that you're doing a book, a textbook on this thing. And then as you have things come up, okay, gang, tell me, does this title sound better than this title? What do you think about the subtitle? Now, titles are great and they mean something to a person, but the subtitle is generally where all the keywords are, that when you search a keyword, you'll generally find it in the subtitle, not necessarily in the title. My life as whatever, well, that's fine. But how to do this and this and this and this, that's where your 4 or 5 different keywords pop up. It's hard to put the keywords into a title and make it meaningful, but those are things that as you're writing a book, they'll come out and be there.
Oh, that's beautiful, Red. My gosh. We could go on forever and ever. Marian, do we want to continue?
I say anybody who has another question, let's we can have Red back. He has always said yes when I've asked him to be a guest, so I think he'll come back. But if anybody has any final questions, please type it in the chat room. There's so much going on in the chat room, Red, you wouldn't believe it. But I'm telling you, you got at least 4 new clients just today. Of people over here saying, I need him, my husband needs him, Lady Lou and I are involved in 2 books. One is for our mastermind, okay? Mm-hmm. And the other one we're writing about this show that we're doing. And so everybody's got multiple books in them, right? Mm-hmm. So you just start with the easiest one, and then you can, as you get experience.
Don't start with the easiest, because the easiest sometimes. Okay. Start with the one you have the most passion for.
Okay.
Because that's the one that's going to get done. It may be easy because I'm only going to do a 25-page tip book, but it may take 25 months because you just don't have the passion to make it happen.
Oh,
the passion underlines. I have these experiences in my job or my life. That's what I want to share with people.
Yes.
Passion is there because that will make it happen. If the passion is not there, okay, I'll go walk my dog because that's more important to me right now.
I totally get that. So Ricky said, should you let the book create the title after it's written?
I think you could do both. I think when you do your library research, your Barnes & Noble research, your Books A Million research, your Amazon research, you're going to see titles that appeal to you. But you need to know what category, what genre you're in, what subcategories you're in. Those are critical because that's going to drive people to your book. If you're doing something that's a self-improvement how-to book, you want to make sure that you know who are the best authors, what are the best titles, how long are those books, what do they encompass. So that's part of the research you're doing, and that's where some of your questions are going to come from, because you're going to see some, well, I didn't think about that, but I got a lot of information on that one. And so that becomes that part of the creation of your book. Now, it may be that I have 3 different titles I really like. I combine them, or I like this title and this subtitle, or maybe whatever it may happen to be. But yes, you can change a title at the very end. It doesn't matter. But
it's called working title.
You can have a working title. Now, my last best-selling book, I had 5 different covers, and I put them on Amazon, on Facebook. And I said A or B, B or C, C or D. The one I liked the best, nobody liked. The one I liked the least, everyone liked. That's the one that's on my cover because it's not my book. It's a book that people will buy.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Because my perspective is, this is what I think is neat, but it's not what people are, that they're not me. I know the contents, I know what I want to give my audience, but they look at something and they see, okay, that's what I want, because that connects with them. The color, whatever may happen to be on there, or the wording or the font or whatever may happen to be. So that's why that competitor analysis is so important, that these 5 people have the best-selling books in this category and these subcategories. What do their covers look like? What exactly are their titles? Can I steal from them shamelessly? What is about that book that just captures your attention? Because that's the same thing you want when somebody else is looking at your book. You want a
Uh-oh.
You don't want to be asked that question and not have the answer. So if you say, well, it's this person and this person, but I really like this one, even though he or she's not at the very, very top. I like the way. So in other words, your audience and the audience needs. You have a very narrow part of your audience. The audience is this big. So you need to know who else is servicing that audience so that when you give them that value, you say, well, Dr. So-and-so says this, but Jerry over here adds this extra part that I think is really important for your particular business concern. So that's part of knowing your audience. And that's why I say you start out with your why, and then you start out secondly with who is your audience.
Why and then who is your audience? Yes, lady.
I've got one last question for you, Red. When people hire you, do you give them a printout of everything you've talked about today so they can
I wish I could. I keep talking about that. I think I've written 1 or 2 blogs on it over the years. But no, I don't have an author checklist. But honestly, I really and truly need one. And I think with the impetus that you gave me today, that I probably should create one. I was talking to a client yesterday, enumerating some of these same things. And I said, let me do this. Let me send you something, because I could tell they were getting lost in the middle. So, yes, yeah. I do need to have something, but I do not as of this moment.
Well, we would be happy.
Well, that's okay.
Anything you need.
Yeah. Go back and watch the show. That's the best thing we can tell any of you out there in the audience. Go back and watch this, make notes, then call Red and get yourself signed up, because this man knows what he's doing and he can help you. Wow. Thank you again, Red. We so very much appreciate you being here, and we will have you back. We will. And thank you to our audience.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for joining in and having a great conversation with our friend Red O'Laughlin, who we just love. We've got everybody saying thank you, Red. They're ready for the checklist. It's just going on and on and on. So, yeah.
Maybe my checklist needs to be a book so I can sell it.
Yes, honestly,
that's a good one. That's a good one.
Book that we all want. Every one of us is going to buy that book. Hurry up, okay?
A 4.5 inch book, 50 things I need to do to have my book published.
There you go.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Oh, I am in hog heaven. Thank you, Red. Those books in my computer will be found. They're there somewhere, and I'll give birth to them soon. So thank you again, Red. I
have a request of everyone that's watching this. Please, after the show is over, would you share it with your friends and your family, and even those associates and people that you don't know? Please share it out and let everyone experience how wonderful Red is. We appreciate you. Thank you all, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, y'all.